وعلى بركة الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. السلام الله عليكم ورحمته وبركاته. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning according to you and this night according to me. This is how Allah arranged the world and the variation of time. I would like to start by thanking TVIKIM and all its staff for the great work to bring us together in this Madani forum. I want to thank in a special way my elders, Professor Muhammad Nur Manuti and Professor Osman Bakar, alhamdulillah, for all their efforts and for leading this effort. Jazahumullahu khairan. We'll be talking about the European revival. We talk about our revival as a civilization. The Europeans went through this maybe 6 or 7 centuries ago, what is called the Renaissance. And it was a revival in methodology, knowledge, thought, and technology. Now, the European experience has got lessons for us. Some are positive and some are negative. The positive things we will follow, the negative ones we will avoid. We need to learn al-ibra min al-tarikh. We need to learn from history so that our today revival or the Madani movement, inshallah, can succeed. Now, Renaissance was a period after the Middle Ages when Western Europe went through a rebirth. Europe had declined during the Middle Ages. They had forgotten all the knowledge and philosophy of the Greeks and the Romans. Very ignorant, very backward. But with the Renaissance, starting in the year about 1300 AD, they started the revival. They got new ideas in art, in government. They got new ideas about thinking. They got new religious ideas, and Europe started changing in what was called the Renaissance or the rebirth. Now, this Renaissance was triggered or was caused by the contact of Christians or Europeans with a more advanced Muslim civilization during the Crusades. As you know, between the 11th and 12th century, Europeans went to invade modern Palestine. What is happening today happened before. And inshallah, both invasions will end in the same way. The Europeans stayed in the area for about 100 years. Then eventually, Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi had to defeat them and throw them out. But during the years of contact with a more advanced Muslim civilization, they learned a lot of things, and they took away a lot of things to Europe with them. The first one was their own knowledge, because the ancient knowledge of Greece and Rome had been lost in Europe, but the Muslims had preserved it. In fact, they had even did more research, and they added on to that knowledge. So Europeans took back with them books with that ancient knowledge. Now, these books were translated from Arabic into Latin, and they triggered or they caused an intellectual awakening in Europe. Now, the Europeans actually got more than what they had before, because the Muslims added a lot on the various disciplines of knowledge in philosophy, logic, science, and technology. A very good example is Abu Rayhan Muhammad ibn Ahmad al-Biruni. He was called the second teacher, al-Muallim al-Thani, after Aristotle. Aristotle, as you know, was a great European philosopher, Greek philosopher, and al-Biruni was like Aristotle, maybe even better than him. That is why he was called the second teacher, al-Muallim al-Thani. He preserved the Greek knowledge and Greek writings and wrote commentaries on Greek logic. So what Europeans took back was more than what it was before. The other thing that the Crusaders took back with them were advanced ideas. I would like to say these are epistemological ideas. The idea of evidence-based knowledge, Hujjat al-Burhan. The idea of freedom of thought, that people can think. The idea that knowledge should be based on observation and analysis, tadabbur, tafakkur, thinking. So they took back these ideas with them, and these were the ideas that triggered or caused the Renaissance. Renaissance started as a movement in new forms of art, new forms of architecture. Then it moved on to the concept of humanism. Humanism basically meant that it is the human who is the center. But then that was the beginning of secularism. Then it triggered also Reformation, change in the religious thought. The Catholic Church at that time had a lot of restrictive doctrines and ideas, and many of them were not understandable to the Europeans. So Reformation was a change in religious thought. And as a result, Protestant churches were formed. But in the process also, the mother Catholic Church underwent internal reforms. Again, with the continuation of the Renaissance, the Age of Enlightenment in the 18th century, when reason became superior to superstition and science replaced blind faith. All of these prepared the Europeans for the age of scientific discovery. They started getting information and facts from actual observation. For example, they dissect the human body. Alchemy, which was like a magical science, became chemistry when they could produce chemicals by actual experimentation. They were able to explain why things burn, combustion. They discovered oxygen. So the age of discovery, a lot of science developed. That was followed by the agricultural revolution, when new methods were used to increase food production and the population increased. Then the agricultural revolution was followed by the industrial revolution, when the economy changed from being agrarian, based on small-scale agriculture, to industrial manufacturing in large quantities. And this gave the Europeans a military advantage, which they used to colonize Africa, Asia, and the Americans. Now, we are in the 18th century or 19th century. Europe didn't look back. More revolutions came. The communication revolution, they got the telex, the telephone. Transport revolution, we got the trains, the ships, steamships, and later airplanes. The digital revolution, when the computers were discovered, and then what we are living today, the internet or information revolution and artificial intelligence. The summary of all of this is that the rise of Western Europe to world dominance, because it really dominates the world until today, started as an epistemological revolution, started as a change in epistemology, a change in the understanding of the sources and uses of knowledge. And this epistemological revolution was triggered by contact with Muslims in the Near East. Now, the epistemological revolution led to all the other revolutions that I have talked about. Now, before I end, I want to draw lessons from this history of the European Renaissance and the changes it caused in Europe. There are lessons for us now as we talk about the Madani movement, as we talk about the revitalization of our civilization in the next 100 years. And these lessons also are relevant to Malaysia, just as they're relevant to all other countries of the world. Now, some of the lessons are positive, others are negative. Let me start with the positive ones. Epistemology is necessary for knowledge generation. You need epistemology as a philosophy in order to generate knowledge, correct knowledge and a lot of knowledge and objective knowledge. Now, the Europeans in the epistemological revolution, they returned to their Greco-Roman origins. They went back to the ancient knowledge of the Greeks and Romans and developed it. We cannot return to those same origins because the Greek and Roman origins are not our origins. We need to return to our own Islamic origins. We need to conceive of an integrated epistemology to guide our knowledge development and other types of developments. This epistemology should combine the two sources of knowledge, al-ilm al-aqli and al-ilm al-naqli. So the integration of knowledge, integration of epistemology should be the center or the beginning of our Madani change. This is similar to what the Europeans went through. They started with knowledge and then they never looked back. The negative lesson we learned from the European experience is that they did not copy the Islamic civilization well. They took half the copy. They took a bad copy. The photostat machine didn't work very well because they took the science, the scientific knowledge. Muslims were very advanced in medicine, in astronomy, in mathematics. They took those things to them. They took the empirical spirit in the Ummah that Muslims knew that knowledge is obtained by observation, analysis, and reasoning. So the Europeans benefited from all of this. But because the copying was not perfect, they did not take the Tawhidi paradigm. That's what I said, they took a bad copy. The bad copy produced a lot of results, but as I will mention later on, it also caused a lot of problems. So we need to be very careful that as we build our Madani civilization and revitalization, we use an integrated approach that combines everything and not only specific things. So today in Europe, and by the way, when I say Europe and problems of Europe, these are problems of the whole world because people from Western Europe, whether they live in America, in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, still have control of the world. There are problems in that civilization, and they arise basically from three things that for us we have very clear in the Quran and which we can understand from an integrated approach. Lack of purpose, gha'iyya. Sometimes things are just done. Technology keeps on growing. You ask people, where are we going? They will not tell you where they are going, but say, we must use the newest thing that is available. The issue of balance, al-mizan. We overdo some things, get good achievements in one dimension, and in the other dimension, we cause harm. Lack of tadafa, lack of corrective reaction. So these things that lacked in the European experience are found in the Tawhidi integrated view of the world, the Tawhidi world view. There are many examples I could give of these problems, but I'll just mention a few of them. We may grow in one dimension while we regress in the other dimension. For example, we have had heavy manufacturing all over the world. We've produced a lot of goods. We have improved our standards of living. But we have also degraded the environment. Environmental degradation, environmental pollution. Why? Because the concept of mizan was not there. We have high material consumption. We have got a lot of goods. Life has become easier. But people are not happier. In fact, when we look at the indices of material development and then compare them with, let's say, misery or sadness or loneliness or suicide, it's very interesting to notice that the countries with the highest material standards of living are countries that also have got the highest rates of suicide. Now, we have worked to produce a context of individual freedom. Children are free, women are free, men are free, everybody is free to do what they want. But on the other side, the family has been lost. And children now don't have families in which to grow, and then we have got a lot of problems on the streets: crime, juvenile delinquency, and drugs. High standards of living in many countries, but the population is contracting. You're getting fewer people because people do not marry, do not get children. So the point is, whenever we have got a civilization change that is not guided by the integrative Tawhidi paradigm, you will end up getting these contradictions. So I want to say that inshallah, as we look towards the next 100 years of our civilizational revival, we need to use the integrated paradigm of Tawheed and look at every development from all sides. Make sure that there is integration, make sure that there is balance, make sure that there is gha'iyya, that the vision is also clear. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.